Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Residence Council Week. My name is Stephanie Ventura, and I'm the Director of Education for the Ontario Association of Residence Councils, the OARC, as we're commonly known. I'm honored to be here with you today as we celebrate the 5th Annual Residence Council Week in Ontario. I'm thankful to have some wonderful co-presenters with me on screen today, including Melissa McVie, who's our Director of Communications, and Stephen Wenzowski, who's an OARC real member, a resident expert advisor and leader, and our resident panel, who we'll introduce a bit later in the program. Thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon. So as always, we'll get started with some webinar housekeeping. You'll notice today that the chat feature for this webinar is disabled, and that's just to minimize disruptions throughout the presentation. However, our question and answer box is open, and we encourage you to put your questions in that box. It is being monitored, and we will answer them as we go along. There will be a time during the webinar, during our resident panel, where you'll be able to ask the resident experts some questions and share what your home is doing, what special things your home and your residence council are doing throughout the year to celebrate this week and also going forward. This webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be available on our website and will be emailed out to all participants along with the slides. And as always, at the end of this webinar, we really appreciate any comments and evaluation that you can provide to us, because we're always looking to improve and to better serve you. So please take a moment to complete the evaluation that will pop up on your screen at the end of this webinar. Please join me in a land acknowledgement. Together, let us now pause as we acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today, from wherever we are virtually participating in today's meeting. Let us take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land we each call home. We do this to affirm our commitment and responsibility to improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. We acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people who call this nation home. Let us now join in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how each of us in our own way can move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Thank you. So the Ontario Association of Residence Councils, for those of you who may be new to our organization or new to long-term care in general, we were founded in 1981 by a group of long-term care residents who wanted a unified voice to speak to the government and to other decision makers about issues of importance to people living in long-term care homes in Ontario. 43 years later, OARC continues to exist as the only association mandated to work with and for residents. We are your association, and everything we do is done with residents at the heart of it all. Our mission is that we empower Ontario long-term care residents to understand their rights, share their lived experience, and inspire a better tomorrow. And we do this by working together with our partners to educate stakeholders, build a collective voice, and create positive culture change. It's our vision that every resident shapes the place they call home. And if you're familiar with our organization, you know that everything that we do is with residents, alongside residents. Residents are guiding the work that we do and helping to enhance the education that we provide and the information that we provide. And that's why we have residents here today. We wouldn't be able to do any of the work that we do without residents, without you. So what is a residence council? We're celebrating Residence Council Week in Ontario. What is a residence council? Many of you are very aware and you're involved and engaged in the residence councils in your homes. But it's always a good reminder and something to be proud of. Residence councils are a vital part of the culture and the resident experience in every long-term care home. And every home in Ontario is required by law to have one. So it's right there in the Fixing Long-Term Care Act, the act that governs all long-term care homes in Ontario, that every home in the province must have a residence councils. That's how important they are. A resident council is a formal advisory group that's independent of the long-term care home. It receives support from the long-term care home, but it's an independent group that belongs to the residents. The residents shape the council. Residents' council meetings are intended to provide residents with a safe place to come together as peers, to share successes and challenges of living in a long-term care home, and to reach consensus decisions. So no one knows what it's like to live in a long-term care home except for the residents. Through their council, residents also actively engage in discussions about quality improvement and home operations. So you have a big job that needs to be celebrated. And that brings us to Residents' Council Week. So why is it that we celebrate this important week? The tradition of celebrating residence councils can be credited to OARC's former vice president, the late David Kent, who believed that the accomplishments of residents and their councils deserve their own week of recognition. What we've heard from homes across the province, and even within our own organization from the residents we work with as part of our board and our advisory group, what you've told us is that we're often so busy in what we do, so involved in the work that we do, that we don't take the time to celebrate and recognize all of our successes and all of our accomplishments before moving on to the next big thing. So Resident Council Week is our opportunity to protect time. Sorry about that. It's our opportunity to protect some time, to celebrate what we've done, to look back on what we've accomplished, and to move forward with hope and enthusiasm and see what else we can achieve together. Now we'd like to welcome a special guest. I will call to the stage Stephen Wenzowski, our resident advisor from Hamilton. Welcome, Stephen.
Hello. So I would like to welcome our first guest, the Honorable Natalia Kusendova-Bashta, Minister of Long-Term Care. Some of you may recognize her as she already visited many long-term care homes across the province since her appointment as Minister of Long-Term Care this past June. Minister Kusendova-Bashta has been a member of provincial parliament since 2018. She is a registered nurse and speaks 5 languages. Prior to appointment as Minister of Long-Term Care, Minister Kusendova-Bashta served as parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Long-Term Care and parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Seniors and Accessibility. We are pleased to welcome her today.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Technology is not always our friend. So hello, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here today. Thank you, Stephen, for your kind introduction. And thank you for all the resident council representatives that have joined us today. I want to thank Stephanie and the OARC for inviting me here to speak at the 5th Annual Residents Council Week. So this week, we are celebrating all of you. It is your week. And as Stephen has already mentioned, my professional background is I'm a registered nurse. I'm very passionate about being a nurse. That's sort of what propelled my career into politics, because I really wanted to be a part of a government that will help improve access to healthcare, that will help end hallway medicine. And of course, now in my role as Minister of Long-Term Care, I'm very proud to be using my nursing skills to improve not only the quantity of care that we receive, in long-term care, but of course also its quality. And so I'm very, very pleased to be able to use my nursing background to serve you all. And since I became minister about 4 months ago, I've been able to visit around 40 homes across the province. It's a beautiful privilege that I have to travel our province of Ontario, which is very different, right? North is different from the south. My city of Mississauga is different from Sudbury or Ottawa. And so it's really, really important that I get to visit different homes to see how everyone is working, what kind of supports are needed, what are some of the challenges that we are facing, but of course to speak to the residents, because dear residents, that is my motivation for waking up every day, is to go to work and ensure that you have the most beautiful state-of-the-art modern spaces that you can age in. And so I am motivated by each and every one of you when I wake up as Minister of Long-Term Care and I get to work. And especially all of you who are working as part of the residence councils, you're doing such an incredible, incredible job, because you are the voices of all of our residents. And without you, we wouldn't be able to make the policy decisions that we need to make. And so you're actually the bosses. You are the bosses of long-term care. So I just really want to thank you for the incredible work that you do representing the voices of residents in long-term care. And we have close to 80,000 residents that live in long-term care in the province of Ontario. So the job that you are doing is so, so important. You bring residents together, you provide support, and you give voice to those residents living in long-term care, and you ensure that their needs are heard and met. And our government has a plan to fix long-term care, and it is built on 4 pillars: improving staffing and care, driving quality through better accountability, enforcement, and transparency, building modern, safe, comfortable long-term care homes for our seniors, and providing seniors with faster, more convenient access to the services they need. And as I already said, resident councils play an integral role in this plan, in our plan. We're working all together and shaping long-term care policy in Ontario. And in fact, as part of our legislation to fix long-term care, every home is mandated to form and support a residence council, as Stephanie has mentioned. So every single one of our 620 homes in Ontario has to have a residence council. And because at the end of the day, who knows what improvements are needed better than those living in the homes themselves? You have a very unique vantage point, and I know that you have a lot to say on how to improve long-term care. And I want you to know that I am listening and that our government is listening. And some of you may already filled out an OARC survey back in June of 2022 to ascertain the state of residence councils in Ontario's long-term care homes on their roles, challenges, and opportunities. And I'm pleased to say that the Ministry of Long-Term Care has made good use of it. Thanks to the information that we have gathered from your surveys, we increase funding so homes can expand healthy menu options. I know food is very, very important. So healthy menu options for residents, and so that long-term care homes can produce a broader range of culturally inspired meals. And that's one thing that I've noticed. We are so fortunate in Ontario to have such a diversity, culturally and ethnically speaking. And I was able to visit many of our cultural homes. And so I'm really pleased that we're able to support those cultural homes with specific meals, but also cultural programming. And those are, again, ideas that are generated from you, the residents. Another interesting response from the survey indicated the desire for long-term care residents to learn more about dementia, so you can better understand what it may be like to live with dementia and the care requirements associated with the condition. And in recognition of the increased need for more supports for residents living with complex conditions like dementia, we expanded the province's behavioral specialized units, also known as BSUs. And these units provide long-term care residents with complex care needs like dementia with safe, quality care in the comfort of a long-term care home instead of a hospital. And I'm so pleased to say that we have announced a 10.15 million in funding 24-25 for the continued operation of these behavioral support units, as well as to increase the capacity by 210 beds over the next 3 years. And in part, these investments are thanks to you and the advocacy of the Ontario Association of Residence Councils. So on behalf of the government, on behalf of Premier Ford and all of my colleagues, I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to each and every one of you who helps and supports residence councils across Ontario for the incredibly important work that you do. And our government and myself will continue to support resident councils to ensure that Ontario seniors get the quality of care they need while maintaining the best possible of life now and in the future. So thank you so much for inviting me to your celebration. Happy Resident Council Week in Ontario. This is maybe our first meeting, but my doors are always open. This is a continuous dialogue, and I really look forward to hearing from as many of you as possible as I continue my work as the Minister of Long-Term Care in Ontario. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you there, Minister. On behalf of the over 80,000 Ontarians living in long-term care homes across the province, I would like to thank you for your kind words about resident councils and the importance of residents' voices. My favorite part, as minister, you have the opportunity to make changes that improve the quality of life for residents. What positive changes are you most looking forward to influencing? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And as I've traveled the province, I have so many ideas that are inspired by residents and by the incredible staff that we have that work in long-term care. So there are many things, but I think my top priority is really working on the level and the quality of care. As you know, in our homes, we as Ontario have a very ambitious goal of reaching 4 hours of direct care per resident per day, and we are well on our way to achieving that goal. But in order to achieve the goal, we need to hire, recruit, and retain more staff. And probably in the last few years, you have been noticing that your homes, because every single home in Ontario has been mandated to hire more staff. And so you probably have been noticing those positive changes in your homes. But it's not just about the quantity of care that you receive per day, it's also about the quality. And so some of the things that I want to focus on as Minister of Long-Term Care, and having the nursing background, which is very helpful in this role, is to ensure that our staff are trained to really respond to the needs of residents. So some of the ideas that I'm sort of working through and thinking about is, perhaps having better training on wound care management within long-term care. Other ideas that I'm working through, ensuring that our staff, our registered staff, like registered nurses and registered practical nurses, operate at their full scope of practice. So maybe having some IV training or some phlebotomy training in our homes to ensure that our nurses are able to take blood from the residents, so that we can run some blood tests within the homes themselves. So those are just some of my preliminary ideas. But really, I do want to focus on the quality of care. I'm also a very passionate advocate to improve dementia care in Ontario. Prior to becoming minister, I had a private member's bill that is currently in the committee to do just that, to really talk about improving dementia care in Ontario. And as we know, so many of our residents in long-term care are living with a dementia diagnosis. And so having, again, proper training for staff to understand how to properly communicate with those residents living with dementia, I think will be fundamental. And, with that comes also investment, right? So it's not just about talking the talk, but also walking the walk. So I'm very proud that we have invested $4.9 billion in funding dedicated to hire more staff within long-term care. And so that's over 4 years. So this year alone, we are spending $1.8 billion to increase staffing and to make sure that each and every resident living in long-term care has the dignity and compassionate care that you all deserve. And the second priority that is very, very important is building more capacity, because as we all know, in Ontario, we have an aging population. People live longer, have more complex healthcare needs. And so we do need to build more physical spaces. And so, again, we have invested $6.4 billion to build 58,000 new and redeveloped beds. Each and every one of you living in your community, if you look around, you probably have a long-term care redevelopment project in your municipality or in your region, because we have about 80 projects on the go currently, 80 capital infrastructure projects. Of course, it takes time to build a long-term care bed, and it takes money, but we are making those investments. And so that is one of the priority areas that I'm focusing on as well, to ensure that we have modern state-of-the-art spaces for our beloved seniors. Does that answer your question, Stephen?
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks again for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Minister, and thank you, Stephen. It was really inspiring to hear everything that you've been up to and all of the ideas that you have for the future. You exemplified why it's so important to take time to celebrate the successes along the way, and really why we're celebrating Residents' Council Week. You know, there is so much work to be done and so many improvements to make and people to meet and ideas to get put into action, that it's a good reminder to take some time and celebrate how far we've come. So thank you so much for being here. You're most welcome to continue on and be part of the rest of the presentation, but we've heard how busy you are. So if this is our time to say goodbye, we appreciate you being here and look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So another part of OARC, you might be wondering why the ministry is on this call. Well, the ministry plays an integral role, of course, with long-term care, and we have a close relationship. The ministry has requested that residents be at these decision-making tables and meeting with residents all the time to hear from them. You heard the minister talking about our environmental scan survey that many of you completed in 2022, where all of the things that were most important to you were identified through that survey, and all of the actions that have come out since then. So please continue to raise those voices and connect with us so we can elevate and help amplify the messages that we're hearing from you. One of the groups that really helps to do that, and you heard a little bit about it, Stephen is a member of this group, is the Resident Expert Advisors and Leaders Group, the REAL group. Some of the work of this group, so these are people who live in long-term care across the province who meet regularly with OARC, with our association, and advise on what's going on in long-term care, what it really is like to live in long-term care, what issues are emerging, what are some of the solutions that can be generated to help impact and improve what's happening at the homes. And also providing feedback back up to the ministry about how the policies and laws that are enacted affect you day to day at the home. So some of the work of the REAL group is, as you see today, presenting, co-facilitating, co-hosting OARC webinars, engaging in advocacy and government relations. I'm kind of going down to top instead of top to down. They have presented at conferences. They present to students at colleges and universities and try and inspire this next group of people who are coming into the long-term care sector, participating on provincial and even national advisory groups. The resident experts, advisors, and leaders, this group were involved in the Canadian Standards Association's long-term care standards, the mental health standard for long-term care, and other important research projects that have helped shape decisions that are being made at the homes. And also, they've helped to facilitate resident forums. So every Thursday at 2 p.m., OARC hosts a resident forum. This is facilitated by someone who lives in long-term care. It's a different person every week. And it's a discussion group where we can dive into different topics that the participants themselves bring up. So we encourage you to reach out to us and get some more information about those resident forums. The reason why we're talking about this real group, we're always recruiting. We are looking for diverse voices, people who live in homes in the north. As you heard Minister say, no two homes are the same. Even within the same region, there are different people shape the homes differently. So if you are someone who is a member of your current residence council or a leader in your home in another way, and you'd like to go to the next level and help to advise and impact things on a provincial level, please consider reaching out to us and getting some information about the real group. We'd love to meet you and to talk about ways that you can give back to the long-term care community and help improve things for yourselves and for your neighbors. Thanks. And of course, this has been the theme so far. The best way to learn about residents and their experiences within their long-term care homes is to ask them. As much as I think I know about long-term care and as close as our team works with long-term care homes, we do not live in a long-term care home. So we are not there 24 hours a day like you are. And so the best person to ask what's really happening at the home are residents. And we have a lovely resident panel lined up today where we'll be diving into these questions here. So we want to know from our resident experts, what or why is the Residents' Council important to them? What about their Residents' Council are they most proud of? Are there any challenges that their Residents' Council has had to overcome to get to where it is today? And also, some may want to answer, how would you like to see your Residents' Council evolve in the next year? Now, for those who are watching today, you are most welcome to enter into the question and answer box. We'll see them. Your answers to these questions. The registration for this webinar, during the registration, many of you said that you were most interested in hearing from other residents and other homes about how they do things with their Residents' Council, how their council works, and to have an opportunity to ask questions of residents. So this is our chance. And I have a copy of these questions. So if anyone needs them again, I will go through them again. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so we could all see each other a little bit better. Okay. Okay, so the first question was, in your view, why is the Residents' Council important? What if we get started? Any volunteers? LaVern, Carol, or Stephen?
I'll take it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. The reason I feel the resident council is important is, first, it is a legislated information, separate and private, for all residents to voice their concerns, both positive and negative, without penalties from the home. The home is the home is residents' home, and the staff, visitors, and our other people are here to help them in their needs.
I think, is that the thing that we're all on?
And it's very important that we get the cooperation and the people to go ahead and have their issues solved in a cooperative and positive way, instead of being always under the gun with negative aspects.
Thank you, LaVern. And, you know, I made a mistake and I apologize. I didn't actually introduce you. I'm sorry about that. So the residents you see on the screen, you see four. Three are part of our panel, and we have Robert as well, who will be appearing a little bit later in the presentation. LaVern, Carol, and Stephen are three of the resident expert advisors and leaders. So three real group members. And LaVern lives in Brockville, Ontario, in a long-term care home. Carol lives in London, Ontario, and Stephen is out in Hamilton. So three of the representatives of our provincial advisory group here to share their experiences with you today. Thank you, LaVern, for your answer to the first question. Did I interrupt you? Did you have some more to add?
Go ahead with the others.
Okay. And Carol, why is residence council important to you?
Well, the number one thing is the residents. That's my first priority. I mean, if watch out for abuse, stuff like that. But if you see a resident sitting and they've got nobody there, go up and talk to them. They might not be able to answer you, but they do hear you. And I expect this to get even better through the years, because I know Courtney is getting equipment for that part, so that these people can become more active.
That's a really important aspect of residence council, is that peer-to-peer support and the
Yes.
network of residents in the home. Sometimes we've heard people say that they feel very alone when they move into long-term care and they're not quite sure what to expect. So having someone like you, a member of the residence council, welcoming new people and being that friend that someone can rely on when, even if they haven't expressed it yet, is so important. And another thing you mentioned Courtney. And for the audience, I wanted to share with the audience something that we haven't mentioned yet, and that is, we know every long-term care home in the province has to have a residence council, but they also have to have a residence council assistant. And that's a member of the team whose part of their role is to help support the residence council in the work that they would like to do. And many of these residence council assistants are part of the reason that why you were able to be connected here today, why you're even watching this presentation, because you had someone that that connected you to it. This support cannot be measured. It's so important and so special. And for all the resident council assistants listening in today, we so appreciate you and the work that you do, and thank you for helping to make the residence councils in your homes the best they can be and what they want to be. We appreciate you. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, darling.
How about you, Stephen? Why is resident council important to you?
We had a meeting on Monday of the resident council. It wasn't a regular meeting, but we each of us was polled and asked, why is resident council so important? And the consensus was, you are the eyes and the voice of every resident in your home.
Yep.
You see, you hear, and you bring it to the council meeting, whether it's praise or a concern or something that should be addressed. That's what resident council does.
That's right.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, we'll move on to the next question, which is, what are you most proud of what about your residence council are you most proud of? So if it's okay with you, we can go in the same order. LaVern, we'll start with you.
What I have is the opening of meaningful communications between staff and residents. And that we are a family here. And as a family, when you get along together, you progress so much. Getting the repairs done in a timely manner. And things have gotten lax here, but we are on the way of getting the communications opened up and getting the things that need to be done. And that's what's happening here at St. Lawrence Lodge. A beautiful place on the St. Lawrence River.
Oh,
Thanks, LaVern. And that reminds me, when we first met you, when we had the privilege of visiting you at St. Lawrence Lodge, your home was undergoing a big air conditioning installation. And we were quite impressed by how involved residents were in the whole thing. Everyone seemed to know exactly what was going on and where they had to be. And so your work towards improving communication in the home between residents council and the home's leadership really showed there. So thank you for sharing that. Over to you, Carol. What about your residents council are you most proud of?
well, one of the things that I like about them is that when we have new residents come in, and 9 out of 10 of them are scared to death. They're not, they don't know what to expect, and they think this is the end of their life. We express to them that you didn't come here to die. You came here to live, to celebrate the life that you've had. And I am very proud of that because it has helped quite a few residents adjust to the fact of being in here.
Thank you, Carol. And every time we hear from you, you always have some inspiring story. Although to you, I don't know if it's that inspiring to you. It's just kind of what you do. But to those of us who hear all of these things that you're doing to help make people feel like they're at home and welcome, it is inspiring to a lot of people. And thank you so much for sharing that. It's so much more than that monthly meeting, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And Stephen, what about your residence council are you most proud of?
Unmute myself. There I am. I just like to add to what Carol said, and I just like to use a quote from another real member. When we moved here, we just changed our address, and that's all it is. As to what I find about my resident council, we're not afraid to ask for change, and we're like a bulldog. We don't let go. I mean, we just keep going meeting after meeting, and hopefully, and eventually it does get changed. Sometimes once, sometimes 2 or 3 times you might have to go at it, but at least they know we're watching.
You know what stands out about your residence council, Stephen, or maybe it's just you. Sometimes you'll approach OARC in the forums or in different meetings, and you have a very specific question. Can you tell me a bit more about the CMI? Or can you tell me a bit more about how the funding works for food? Or does the food supplier need to come from a secure vendor? What does secure vendor mean? So your council is unique in that you do a lot of research. You come prepared with so many things. So your home leadership half the work is already done for them, really, because you come with all of the answers. And that's LaVern sort of touched on that earlier, is that we're really trying to come up with solutions and get things resolved, right? We're not interested in having an antagonistic relationship or in going back and forth, beating around the bush. We just want this to be solved in the best way that works. So thanks for sharing that. And that is absolutely something that your residence councils can do. If you're not sure about something, whatever it is, and sometimes, team members at the home are not sure as well. There's so many changes happening all the time. You are most welcome to reach out to your association, to us, to the Ontario Association of Residence Council, with any questions that you have about how long-term care works, what the legislation says, what other councils have done in the same situation, and we can help facilitate that conversation with you. So great suggestions. Thank you, Stephen. And for our last question, I'll give you the options. So you can answer one or the other, or both if you'd like. Are there any challenges that your residence council has had to overcome to get to where it is today? Or how would you like to see your residence council evolve or change in the next year? LaVern.
Well, first of all, I'm going to put a plug in for OARC. It is an excellent resource. Go to their website. You can find out tons of information, and it might just help solve your problems in your resident council. I would like to see a continuing movement of advancement towards the proper running of this resident council, where residents help residents. Resident council is to work for the people of the home in improving the home, and it helps with peer support too. Thank you.
Thank you, LaVern. Carol, same question. Any challenges that your residence council has overcome to get to where it is, or how would you like to see your residence council evolve in the next year?
I would like to see it evolve more for the activities that are offered for these residents. They need to be gotten out of between four walls. I don't care what the activity is, if it's outside or what, but they need to go outside and be active. Now, most of the residents that are not dementia patients understand this, and they will go out. If it's just to listen to music or whatever, they're quite interested. I've watched some of them sit there and just sing right along with the music. I mean, but yet they're dementia patients. So I think we need to develop more, what do you say, expansion to get more out.
Yeah. And resident council is a good place to bring those concerns to and those recommendations to, because oftentimes the council assistant is also the recreation director or recreation manager. And so they have a huge job to do. And for those on the call today or on the line today, for those viewing, Carol, along with other members of the Real Group and OARC, we have been having those conversations to help bring psychosocial engagement and activities and programming to the important place that it deserves to be at. Right at the top, residents will often tell us, care at the long-term care home is the given, but it's everything else that happens that makes it a home and that makes it a place where people can live and thrive. So we hear you, and thank you, Carol, for always being a strong voice when it comes to psychosocial engagement and the important role that the recreation and programs team plays in the home, a vital role.
Thank you.
And lastly, Stephen, any challenges that your council has faced or that it has had to overcome, or how would you like to see the council evolve?
Okay, I'm going to answer both questions. I think the first one, the biggest challenge for a resident council was coming out of the pandemic. Being isolated per floor, everything was done by Zoom. People were afraid to speak. They'd be in the back of the room. I think coming out of the pandemic and meeting face to face, it opened up the residents that showed up. Second one, how would you like to see a resident council vote? I think we have to become more familiar with the legislation, not just the rights, but the other stuff that's in the legislation that is for the residents. Maybe even look into funding, how the funding is done.
Thank you, Stephen. And we, together with you, I think you've just volunteered yourself to continue being a co-host for these webinars on all of these different topics that are important
I'm
to
always
residents.
volunteering.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, thank
At
you
least
so much.
you didn't go rogue.
Not yet. There's still 12 minutes.
He's not the only one that wants to find out the proper things. Because when the resident council knows what is going on, then we can manage our resident home in a better way.
Absolutely. Thank you all. The next part of our webinar, not a very graceful segue, but the next part of our webinar is all about a fun part. It's about a special award that we present. This is the second year that this award has been presented. And I'll turn it over to my co-host, Melissa McVie.
Thanks, Stephanie, and thanks to our amazing resident panel. It's always so great to hear about what you're working through and what you're looking forward to with your resident councils. The Sharron Cooke Award, it's my privilege to talk about this award. It's an annual award that was created, you might recall, we launched it last year. It was created to honor the memory and the perseverance spirit of the late Sharron Cooke, who was a dynamic and inspiring resident leader based out of Newmarket, Ontario. Sharron was OARC's longest serving president, and she was actively involved on our board of directors for over a decade. Before her passing, Sharron helped the OARC team to envision this award that would be presented on a year after year basis. And as Stephanie mentioned, this is our second year. We're very excited to have launched it again. So this award is unique in that it recognizes a long-term care home team that's comprised of residents and team members working together. That's the requirement. And this team is helping to bring about positive culture change through a project or an initiative that is centered on some key qualities that Sharron Cooke felt really make a good home. These qualities include collaboration, relationship building, trust, hope, compassion, and authentic communication. And this year, there was so much creativity and thoughtfulness poured into the submissions that we received. We were truly humbled and blown away by the response again this year. And it did not make our decision easy. We certainly hope to spotlight and to share some of the highlights from some of the other amazing award applications by profiling them in our Seasons magazine that'll come out in December. And actually, it was Stephen's idea to invite some of the applicants to collaborate on future webinars because we had some really great ideas put forward that we felt could be replicated and adapted for all homes across Ontario. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our award adjudicating committee. We've got representatives in Carol and Stephen on the screen. So everyone reviewed the applications we received. They were anonymized, so all the home identifiers were removed. They reviewed the applications independently and then came together to reach a consensus decision around our winner. And I just wanted to share a little bit about some highlights. We can go to the next slide where we can showcase what made our winning selection special. It was called the Taste of Home. And this program was initiated by the Residents Council and Food Committee. And it truly brought together residents, families, dietary teams, recreation, home leadership, including the home administrator. So it was truly supported at all levels. It was a resident idea, but it involved everyone to really make it a success. They started small with a commitment to meet on a weekly basis, and they brought resident recipes, family recipes forward out of the archives, out of the recipe books, and they worked together to prepare and taste test the recipes on that weekly basis. And then building on that recreation program, they're really taking it to the next level. And the recipes that were vetted and approved and deemed to really taste like home are now being considered and included on the fall and winter menu cycle at this home. What we loved about this application is it included many resident quotes and photos to tell their story. They talked about how their process really brought together their whole community. It helped to establish a sense of trust and camaraderie between residents and their teams. There was an aspect of personal sharing and being vulnerable, discovering different cultural backgrounds and traditions, and reminiscing about the past. One resident shared, by incorporating cherished recipes from our residents into our menu, we're not just serving meals, we're serving memories. At this time, I'd like Stephen to add to what I've said and to share what he liked most about the Taste of Home program.
Okay, thank you. I had to review the 5 applications, and it was so easy to pick number 1, which is the Taste of Home. I liked that it was initiated by the Resident Council and Food Committee. I liked that it got the residents involved and not just a one day and gone. No, it was a daily or weekly event to continue on.
Thanks, Stephen. I agree. Those are excellent reasons that made this application stand out. So without further ado, and in the absence of a drum roll, we'll move to the next slide. And we'll invite Carol. Carol, would you like to announce our winner?
Oh, I'd really love to congratulate all of yous at Kensington Village in London, which I plan on visiting, and get this program enforced. We are trying it.
Yeah.
We are going to go through the recipes, and we figured once a month we would have one of the favorites put on the menu.
Thank you, Carol.
And your ideas are just unbelievable. And I'm so happy that we had a chance to check them. Good luck in the future.
I like the idea that this program could be copied across Ontario.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're so thrilled to have with us live. I think most of the team, the names are appearing on the screen. We had a really a mixed team of resident leaders, including the president of the Kensington Village Resident Council, Rob. We've got also Donna and Evan, the executive director, Michelle, director of recreation, who really helped lead the charge with this submission, Lihara, the cook, and the food services manager, Paula and Jillian. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here live. I know we're eager to hear from you, our winners. Any words that you, or reactions you'd like to share, Robert, about receiving the award?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. We're blown away. It's just totally awesome to be winning it. It really just is. It's
Wonderful.
fantastic.
You deserve it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you. This is truly a testament of your amazing teamwork and your innovation. I know there are a number of homes that have welcomed and resident recipe sharing, but I think that you've really kind of taken it to the next level by really integrating it into or working towards integrating into your menu cycle, so that there are those cherished recipes amongst that menu rotation.
And Rob, don't forget your next project.
Yeah. What's that?
Sauerkraut chocolate cake.
No, the recipe book.
The recipe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, we're eager to hear from other homes. I know there are homes that have worked together to compile favorite recipes for a recipe book or a cookbook. And I've even seen it used as a fundraiser. It can be sold, copies could be sold as a fundraiser, generating funds back to the resident council. So there's lots of ways to go about it. But we're so thrilled. Is there anyone else from Kensington Village who'd like to share a few words? Evan, would you like?
I can mention, I have recipe boxes full of recipes and lots of recipe books for all kinds of people that want to for diabetics and for to care for people and people that like something sweet and something that they like something that they can remember.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
that-
beautiful.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, Donna. And that's an important consideration and something that Stephen asked Rob when we first met you a week ago about, did you hit any roadblocks about rolling out these recipes and working with the dietitian and the nutrition team? And I think with some creativity, a lot of recipes can be adapted and served in different textures to meet all residents' needs and preferences.
So Melissa, you just give me a brainstorm, something for the OARC website.
Okay.
Is a weekly posting of a recipe from the residents' councils throughout Ontario. Pick the best one and post it, so the
Yeah.
rest can see.
Well, we are hoping that Robert will share his bread pudding, his award-winning bread pudding recipe with us to get us kicked off. Thank you again, and congratulations to the team at Kensington Village and to our other amazing applicants for your creativity, your teamwork, and your commitment to showcasing the amazing things happening in your homes. So we look forward to hearing more about how your project's unfolding at Kensington, and to be spotlighting you and to hear what you've decided for your exciting prize. So I know the group's putting their heads together to decide what that will be. So thank you again, and back over to Stephanie and the team.
So much. Congratulations once again. And we've come to the close of our time together. And after hearing about these wonderful recipes, I'm sure everyone's got a little rumble in their tummy. I know I do. It's been such a pleasure being here with you today. And we sincerely hope that you will continue on doing all the great things that you do with your Residence Council. We're only halfway through Residence Council Week. There's still lots of opportunity to celebrate. So if this is the first part of your celebration, keep going. Please don't feel like you're behind in any way or you haven't done enough. Wherever you are is good. And just keep going forward. Tomorrow, you can join us at the Resident Forum at 2 p.m. in Eastern Time. The link is available on our website, and we can send it out as well with the recording of this webinar. Once again, thank you so much for being part of our presentation today, of our celebration today. We hope that there's a few things that you can take back with you to your homes, and we hope to continue receiving photos from you for our photo contest that is still ongoing until the end of the week. Let us know how you're celebrating Residence Council Week and what you look forward to. Thank you so much from the team at OARC. Happy Residence Council Week.
And thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks, Carol. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank
and LaVern.
you.
everyone.
Thank you, folks, for, if you folks are running into problems, just remember, we got your back.
That's good to
LaVern.
know.
That's a solid endorsement. Thanks, LaVern. Okay. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Take care.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wow.